Hello. Today we are going to engage in an analysis of the Aeterna Lucis demo. For those unfamiliar, this is the follow-up game to Aeterna Noctis, a game that carved out a specific niche for itself by embracing a difficulty curve that, for many, was incredibly unforgiving. The question before us, then, is not whether Aeterna Lucis adheres to the genre's structural conventions. It clearly does. But rather how effectively it translates its predecessor's design philosophy into a new form, and whether this translation results in genuine improvements or merely a continuation of past design tendencies. Let us first consider the narrative structure. In Aeterna Lucis we shift perspectives from the King of Darkness to the Queen of Light. This immediately sets up a duality, a counterpoint to the established lore of Noctis. The demo initiates us within the Tower of Light, an environment ostensibly in contrast to the darker, more desolate locales of the previous game. The initial exposition is delivered via a brief monologue at the start and contextual environmental cues. The plot, as far as the demo can convey, positions the Queen against the supreme god Chaos, apparently continuing the cosmic struggle. The game attempts to imbue this with a sense of imposingness, a deep philosophical theme, if you will. However, the effectiveness of this conveyance, due to this limited context, remains to be seen. Is the narrative compelling due to its inherent substance, or merely because it references a previously established universe? One might argue that the burden of history is already doing much of the heavy lifting. The demo provides glimpses of lore, certainly, but whether these fragments coalesce into a truly engaging reason to persist through its challenges is a question only the full release can answer. For now, it's merely a backdrop, however visually elaborate. Now we turn to traversal, the very language through which a RhinoVania communicates with the player. Aeterna Lucis, much like its predecessor, stakes its claim on precision platforming. The demo thrusts us into the early areas of the Tower of Light, which are less about expansive exploration and more about a series of tightly constructed, almost puzzle-like platforming gauntlets. The Queen's fundamental movement, her jump and standard dash, are, by most objective measures, responsive. However, the true point of contention, and indeed the primary challenge, lies in the light dash. This mechanic permits the Queen to phase through specific luminous barriers, demanding precise timing and often immediate follow-up inputs to avoid environmental hazards such as plasma traps. This is not a mechanic for the faint of heart. While it certainly adds a new layer of complexity, a phrase often used to describe a system that demands significant player adaptation, it also introduces a significant amount of friction. My own experience involved numerous deaths, in specific segments where combining a standard dash, a light dash and an immediate directional input was required. This rhythm game quality implies that Aeterna Lucis is not merely doubling down on unforgiving movement, it is, perhaps, attempting to refine the very definition of player dexterity within the genre. The demo's limited map does hint at future ability gating, a standard RhinoVania convention, but the real question is how creatively these new abilities will be integrated into the already demanding traversal challenges. Is this simply more of the same, or is there a genuine evolution in spatial puzzle design? Combat, the other fundamental pillar. Aeterna Lucis pictures itself as having lightning-fast encounters. The Queen of Light wields a longer range light sword compared to the King of Darkness, and she also possesses a light bow with an auto-aim feature. The fluidity of combat is, on a surface level, present. Attacks are initiated without significant input lag, the visual feedback, the satisfying crunch is there. Enemies do react convincingly, to a degree. The demo presents a moderate variety of early enemy types, nimble flyers, and those with area of effect detonations or player tracking laser beams. This necessitates a degree of tactical adaptation. The auto-aim bow is a notable addition. It offers a reliable ranged option, reducing the need for manual aiming and thus maintaining a higher combat flow, particularly when dealing with airborne or distant threats. This is a design choice that prioritizes continuous engagement over precision aiming, a subtle but important distinction. The clarity of enemy telegraphs is generally good, allowing for reactive dodging. But the true measure of combat depth often lies beyond mere responsiveness. It's in the strategic interplay, the risk-reward, and whether each encounter feels like a meaningful engagement or simply an exercise in damage output. Does the combat consistently compel calculated aggression, or does it risk devolving into repetitive execution? Only time will tell. The demo's culmination often resides in its boss encounter, a concentrated test of the game's mechanics and the player's acquired proficiency. And the demo features an early boss, which is certainly not a pushover. This particular encounter is a demonstrative piece of game design. Its attack patterns are varied and demanding, requiring not just standard dodging but crucially intentional and good utilization of the light dash to circumvent specific attacks or position oneself for an opening. The fight acts as a forced mastery check, demanding that the player internalize the game's challenging movement mechanic under pressure. This boss is maybe harder to beat than many other first bosses from other games, but this is not necessarily a flaw. Difficulty, when fair, can be a potent motivator. The fight's fairness hinges on the clarity of its telegraphs and the precision of its hitboxes. The boss, in essence, is a microcosm of the game's broader philosophy. It will test you, relentlessly, and success will come from precise execution, not merely improvisation. Beyond the direct interaction, there is the game's aesthetic presentation. Aeterna Lucis continues the franchise's commitment to a hand-drawn art style rendered in a 2.5D perspective and augmented by dynamic lighting. Aesthetically, the game is, by most metrics, stunning. The meticulous detail in the environments, particularly the returning stained glass motifs, is evident. The interplay of light and shadow, the dynamic shadows, certainly adds a layer of visual depth, and the Queen's character model and animations are fluid, conveying a sense of dignified movement. However, visual appeal, while commendable, is only one component. The more pertinent question for a Metroidvania is, does the art style serve the gameplay effectively? Does it consistently provide clear visual cues for platforms, hazards and enemy tells? Are there instances where the sheer visual density, the occasional visual clutter, might obscure critical information during frantic moments? For example, during intense combat or complex platforming sections, the proliferation of particle effects and detailed backgrounds could, at times, make it challenging to immediately discern actionable elements from mere ornamentation. While the developers have achieved a stellar and evocative visual identity, the practical application of that identity in high-stakes gameplay moments warrants scrutiny. Is it merely pretty pictures, or does every pixel contribute to player understanding? As for me personally, I had no problems with visual clutter whatsoever. Equally important, and often understated, is the audio design and music. It's the unforeseen force that can truly immerse you in a game world, and Aeterna Lucis seems to understand this perfectly. The music in the demo is nothing short of epic and orchestral. It perfectly complements the grand scale of the narrative and the intense challenges you face. From the moment you step into the Tower of Light, the soundtrack builds an atmosphere of reverence and mystery. During combat, the music shifts, becoming more intense and driving, perfectly syncing with the action on screen and adding to the urgency of each encounter. And the boss fight in particular featured a track that was both dramatic and intense. Beyond the music, the sound effects are incredibly well crafted. Every sword swing, every enemy hit, as well as the Queen's abilities have distinct, powerful audio cues. While a few sound effects might feel familiar from Aeterna Noctis, the overall soundscape is rich, dynamic and undoubtedly of high quality. It genuinely alleviates the experience and deepens the immersion. The Metroidvania, by definition, implies a progression of ability and the corresponding unfolding of the world. The demo, being a curated slice, offers a glimpse into this fundamental structure. We are introduced to initial traversal abilities, primarily the various dashes. The level design judiciously places conspicuously blocked pathways, the classic Metroidvania breadcrumbs, designed to tantalize the player with the promise of future access. Beyond simple ability gating, the demo introduces a relic system, featuring different tiers of relics. This suggests a more granular customization system, allowing players to fine-tune their build for specific challenges, a welcome layer of depth beyond linear stat increases. Furthermore, you can spend points which you gain when you level up in the skill tree, offering upgrades for melee, bow, healing and a still locked ability, presents a clear, concise pathway for player growth. The implication here is a truly interconnected world, one that expands meaningfully as the Queen accrues new powers and enhances existing ones. The critical question, however, is whether the design of the areas unlocked by these future abilities will consistently present novel and engaging challenges, or simply more of the same, just with different traversal tools. The framework is undeniably present. Its ultimate execution remains to be seen. So, what then is the demo for Aeterna Lucis? It is, in essence, a declaration that Aeterna Game Studios intends to double down on the design philosophy that defined Aeterna Noctis, one of uncompromising challenge, meticulous precision and an often brutal, yet potentially rewarding demand for player mastery. The demo offers breathtaking visuals, a fluid combat system that prioritizes engagement, and platforming segments that are, by design, incredibly demanding. It teases a rich world and a robust progression system. However, it also reaffirms that this game would not hold your hand. Its difficulty, particularly evident in the boss encounter and the light dash mechanics, serves as both its primary draw and its potential barrier to entry. This is not a game for casual exploration. It is a game that demands respect, patience, and a willingness to die repeatedly in pursuit of mastery. The demo firmly plants Aeterna Lucis as a contender for those who appreciate games that push the boundaries of player skill. It has the components, it has the ambition, and it certainly has the challenge. Whether this translates into a universally engaging or a merely niche experience will depend entirely on one's tolerance for its particular brand of unforgiving design. It is, perhaps, precisely what it claims to be: more Aeterna, for better or worse. If you enjoyed this demo review and found it helpful, please do me a huge favor, hit that like button, subscribe for more in-depth Metroidvania content, and make sure to ring that notification bell. Thanks for watching, I'll see you in the next one.